In these times, a lot of us are surrounded by adverse conditions. Sometimes it feels as though you have the worst lot in life. We can all relate to the feeling that everything seems to be working against us. But what if I were to tell you that everything around you might be crumbling, but you are more fortunate than you think? Revelation for Life is here to challenge your perspective. Okay, let's talk about challenges and hardships. I want to read a verse that is always used in context of sinful struggles, but I believe it can have a far wider application than that. The Apostle Paul had a struggle referred to as a thorn in the flesh, which he wanted God to take away from him. We get God's response in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. But he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Paul then went on to say, Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Verse 10, For the sake of Christ then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then am I strong. God said, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Let's break this first part of the verse down and see how it relates to our present everyday adversities. The word grace is defined as the free and unmerited favor of God. Now, if something is sufficient, it is all you need. So, we look at situations and determine what we need to overcome it. But God is saying His favor is all we need. So, we can start to reword this verse to say, My favor is all you need, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Now, let's continue with our breakdown. The word perfect is defined as absolute, as good as it is possible to be. God's power is absolute and perfect in and of itself. When we say His power is made perfect, we are not talking about giving God more power, but rather giving ourselves access to all of that power. It's like the sun. Sometimes we go outside and say, the sun is really hot today. But the sun is not hotter than it was the day before. The sun doesn't get hotter. Its temperature is pretty consistent at 15 million degrees Celsius at the core. What happens on an exceptionally hot day is that more of its heat reaches us. On a cloudy, breezy day, it will be cooler. But when there's no wind blowing and there are no clouds in the sky, those conditions allow for more of the sun's heat to reach you. Likewise, when we are talking about the sun, S-O-N, the sun doesn't get stronger. Based on the conditions of where we are, more of His power reaches us. So, let's reword this verse as, My favor is all you need, for my power is absolute in your life in weakness. So, we are talking about access. How much access to God's power do we have? Weakness is the condition that enables this access. None of us like being weak, but we get absolute access to God's power through being weak. The word weak is defined as lacking the power to perform physically demanding tasks, lacking physical strength and energy. Simply put, to be weak is to be without power or without means. We can now reword the verse to say, my favor is all you need because my power is absolute in your life when you don't have the means. God's power is given by His favor. You don't need favor if you have the means. If someone asks you to lend them $100 and you know that they have $1 million at their disposal, you are less inclined to extend that favor to them. If you are a Christian today and you don't have the means to help yourself, if you don't have the means to fix your adverse situation, then I say to you that you are more fortunate than you think, because that condition qualifies you to access more of God's power. That condition qualifies you for greater favor. No wonder Paul said, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. No wonder he said, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. In these times, a lot of us are surrounded by adverse conditions, but I'm here to tell you that even if everything around you is crumbling, you are more fortunate than you think. This is revelation for life. Scripture quotations from the ESV Bible.